It's Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. Good evening and welcome to the daily happenings inside our federal machine. FBI Director Kash Patel testifies before the Senate Oversight hearing today and holds his ground while the Democrats intend to smear his ability to run the FBI, including exchanges with Director Patel verbally clobbering some Democrats. The District Attorney of Utah confirms that the Charlie Kirk assassin was indeed radicalized by the left over the last year. President Trump announced that regarding the court case against him in Georgia, the Georgia Supreme Court ruled that District Attorney Fani Willis and team have been disqualified from prosecuting the case against the president. The president and First Lady arrived in the United Kingdom today, where they will meet with UK officials and King Charles over the next couple of days. Secretary Rubio reaffirms that Trump is the one man in the world who has the ears of the Ukrainians, the Europeans, and the Russians when it comes to finding peace and putting an end to the war. Lisa Cook, the Fed governor who was caught fraudulently completing mortgage documents in 2 different states within 2 weeks, appealed to a federal court who decided today to allow her to remain on the board of the Federal Reserve. CBP officers in Detroit just seized 1,040 pounds of cocaine and 930 pounds of methamphetamine. And there's a lot more going on today, so we're going to just dive right in. And if you enjoy the video, please give the video a like if you have a quick second, and subscribe to the channel if you have a chance, and all that good stuff. And I might just read your comment on the next episode if you decide to drop one. And by the way, everything I share in the video was posted no more than 24 hours ago, and most of the posts that I'll be sharing in this evening's video were really within the last 12 hours for the most part. But real quick, before I get started, I did this video a couple days ago. I think it was 2 days ago. And first off, 50 subscribers, man. I cannot believe I got 50 subscribers already. I've only been doing this for like maybe a month and a half. And I cannot believe I'm already up to 50. That's amazing. So thank you all so much for subscribing. It really does mean a lot to me. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. I'm not aiming for fame and fortune or anything. I got downtime, man. My daughter, she graduated high school back in May. So I'm just kind of doing my own thing. So I figured I'm reading the news every single day. I'm interested in doing it. So might as well just, do something with my spare time after work. But anyway, so speaking of this video, I saw this, I think it was last night. There was somebody that left me a comment. It's at Joel TZ8CT. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce that, so I'm just going to spell it out. And he said, I'm your 49th subscriber, man. That's awesome. Thank you very much for being my 49th subscriber. I really appreciate it. And he said, you might be my new favorite. Well, much respect, much appreciation to you, good sir. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. And I hope you get a lot of enjoyment and a lot of information. And yeah, it's just really cool. It's really great that people are tuning in, and they are just trying to stay in touch with what's going on in the federal government. I tried to grab as much as I can, which of course has to be interesting. I don't want to grab like the most boring shit out there, like from like the National Archives, something that happened in like 1952, some obscure whatever, or the IRS, or like the I don't even know, CMS, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and all that. There's a lot of parts of the federal government that's really boring, and I see that stuff every day, all the time. So I try to grab what seems to be the most interesting that the mainstream news isn't going to be talking about, which I usually save most of that stuff for the second half of the video. I try to lead with the stuff that's like most pertinent, most important, most interesting, or what most people are talking about, because I just figured that's probably just the best way to go with formatting each video each evening. So all right, without further ado, here's RNC Research. Utah District Attorney Jeff Gray confirms that Charlie Kirk's assassin became more radicalized to the left over the past year. So let's give this a watch, if it will let me. Actually, here, let me just refresh real quick. Apparently, I accidentally hit the video, so just brief minor technical difficulties. It's all right, it's the top one, so here we go. All right, let's rock and roll.
Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders.
Yeah, because that's of course it's something a right winger would do, dating transgenders, and yeah, I mean, like, obviously that's not something that the right does. I mean, I'm assuming that the left knows that. You would think they would know that. So just further confirmation that he was indeed radicalized by the left, not an extreme right winger, not any sympathizer of any extreme right winger or anything like that. Which, of course, we're going to get all this information out in the court hearing or in the trial. Of course, that could be, I don't know, it could be a year and a half from now, or it could be 5 or 6 years from now. Hopefully it's better, or be more sooner than later. And all of this is going to come out in testimony in the trial. Every single thing that the mainstream media is going to lie about between now and then, trying to paint him as some extreme right winger, wearing a Trump shirt that they photoshopped, a bunch of bullshit. Because the Democratic Party is in absolute chaos right now. They're completely in full-on collapse. I just read today that the voter registrations for people joining the Republican Party over the last 6 days has multiplied by 4 times. There's 4 times the amount of people who are registering to become Republicans over the last 6 days than typical. So an absolute explosion in people jumping into the Republican Party, and also a lot of people leaving the Democrat Party. I heard hashtag walk away has also exploded in popularity again, which, if you remember back in the late 2010s, right around when Trump won his first term, that was a real popular hashtag that was going around for a while with people who were once Democrats, and they started seeing the real world for what it is, and they just jumped from one party over to the other. So all right, anyway, so this is from ABC News Politics. FBI Director Kash Patel breaks down the timeline of the agency's investigation into the killing of Charlie Kirk and the arrest of suspect Tyler Robinson. Let's give this a watch.
This FBI is transparent as possible without jeopardizing investigations. Charlie Kirk was shot at 12:23 p.m. on September 10th. I think this timeline is critically important. Less than a day later, the FBI, at my direction, released the first set of images of the suspect that we captured based on our analysis on the ground. Later that evening, while conducting extensive interviews and cell phone analysis, and also flying out evidence response teams and hostage rescue teams and evidence tacticians who were collecting evidence in live time and flying them back to Washington, D.C. in our laboratories for immediate analyses, we were able to extract video from the campus feed. And at my direction at 8 p.m., in partnership and in promise to working with the public to bring this fugitive to justice, we released a newly, never before seen video of the suspect. We also released new enhanced photos of the suspect. A few hours later, that suspect was in custody, pursuant to the interrogation of the suspect's own father, who stated, "When I saw that video that you released, I recognized it was my son, and I confronted him, and he was handed over to lawful law enforcement authorities." That is the FBI working with the public, as I promised, being transparent and providing critical information along the way in the manhunt for the suspect and suspects involved in Charlie's assassination. We received over 11,000 tips in the first 24 hours alone. We received 16,000 submissions to our digital media enterprise and tip lines. That is a large number of material to go through. I want to thank President Trump and the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, for their unwavering support and commitment of resources to this and all investigations. I also want to especially thank our colleagues in Utah, the Governor's Office, DPS, and the sheriffs out there. State and local law enforcement partnership has been a cornerstone since I took over at the FBI, and it was no different here. And our teams in Salt Lake City, our SACs out there across the country, our lab technicians in Quantico who raced to complete the evidence analysis so the public could have the answers they need. These people worked through the night without sleep for days on end. They are to be commended. They are not to be attacked. And many, many, many more people I don't have time to thank here today. But I do want to thank the American people especially. The mission of the FBI is for them and with them and by, with, and through them. And it's that mission and that ethos that I brought to this investigation and so many others, and that's why that suspect is in custody. We cannot do our job without the American public and credible reporting in the media, and that's why Tyler Robinson is in custody today, about to face charges.
Well, and I heard on social media, not really from politicians, but just from regular people, that they were pushing back against the FBI because it took them 12 hours to show up, and they didn't really start investigating until many hours after the fact, and it took them like the better part of a day to get the images out. And meanwhile, this this deranged killer could have been out going on a killing spree while the FBI is taking their sweet time to show up and start investigating. But dude, Utah has police. They've got a police department in the local area. They've got sheriff's departments in the local area. They had cops on the ground and they let them go. Fuck, like, don't be pointing fingers at the FBI. Point fingers at the local law enforcement, if anything. I mean, look, the FBI, they got there as soon as they could get there. But you've got on-the-ground police officers in this area, and they let him go, not the FBI. All right, just my opinion. It's just my opinion. All right, Nick Sordor, LMAO. Kash Patel just trolled Democrat Dick Durbin in his Senate hearing today. Durbin, why was the July 7th memo left unsigned? Kash, would you have preferred I use AutoPen? So this hearing, the Democrats were trying to deflect a lot of the main reason why he was there, which was to, testify about the Charlie Kirk assassination and what's going on with that, their progress with the investigation. Of course, Democrats want to drag him in and try to drag him through the mud, try to discredit him, because Kash Patel is probably, so far, it seems to be, well, in my opinion, he's definitely the most transparent FBI director so far. He's going on news channels, and to me, it seems like he's doing a hell of a good job. But like I said, the Democrats, they're in free fall right now, and they know Kash Patel is one hell of an effective FBI director, so they're doing anything they can to try to discredit him, to try to get him kicked out of the FBI. So this, I'm assuming, is regarding the Jeffrey Epstein documents release. They did bring that up a lot, trying to change the subject, most likely when they knew that they were failing as far as trying to dig up dirt with regard to the Charlie Kirk assassination. I mean, they would just be better off not even bringing that up in the first place, because it's as clear as freaking day. And it's unbelievable that we even have to make this argument that the person who assassinated Charlie Kirk while giving a speech on a college campus, a conservative Christian, was shot by a left-winger, not a right-winger, a left-winger. I mean, talk about living in clown world, but all right, anyway, here, let's give this a listen. It's real short. It's just 16 seconds.
Stating there is no incriminating client
I'm sorry,
list.
another loud one.
Why was this July 7th memorandum unsigned?
Would you prefer I've used AutoPen?
Oh, shit.
Well, why was it
The
unsigned?
memorandum had the insignia of the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Oh, the
And
insignia. Okay. What, do you want an AutoPen or what? I think he's trying to suggest to Dick Durbin that he's a very busy man and there's a lot going on. And yeah, not each and every single document that goes through the FBI is signed by the FBI director himself. I don't know the inner workings of the FBI, so I'm assuming that having the FBI insignia on it probably would suffice. All right, Rapid Response 47. Must watch FBI Director Kash Patel bodies pencil neck Senator Adam Schiff. And of course, they throw out some quotes, so I'll just let this play out here.
No, I think the American people believe the truth, that I'm not in the weeds on the everyday movements of inmates. What I am doing is protecting this country, providing historic reform, and combating the weaponization of intelligence by the likes of you. And we have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate, in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate.
Wow.
You are a disgrace to this institution and an utter coward.
I'm not surprised.
Holy shit.
I'm not
He is
surprised
a
that
fucking
you
coward.
continue to lie from your perch and put on a show so you can go raise money for your charade. You are a political buffoon at best.
Fuck yeah, he is.
Take it to the bank that the FBI is protecting this country and the state and citizens of California. We are bringing historic reform. Point of order. But all you care about is a child sex predator that was prosecuted by a prior administration, and the Obama Justice Department and the Biden Justice Department did squat. And what did President Trump do? Bring new charges courageously. And what have we done?
Chairman,
You said
take
I'm the
control
most
of this
transparent
situation.
FBI director in history.
Take control of this
33,000 pages of information to you. I challenge you to say anything credibly to the truth. Go ahead and run to the cameras where you want to go now.
Oh my God. Holy shit. Oh my God. Yeah, he's the best FBI director I think we've had in probably my lifetime at the very least. Holy shit, dude. He would not stop, man. That is awesome, dude. God bless him, man. Because I think anybody else, as soon as they start banging that gavel, they usually STFU. But he just went on and on, dude. He fucking deserved that, man. Adam Schiff is such a piece of shit. He always has been. He's a fucking clown. He's an absolute pathological liar. He's a fucking psychopath. You can see the whites around his eyes when he's talking. That's a clear case he's a damn psychopath. All right. Anyway, that was a hell of a banger, man. All right, SGA or SG Anon, ICYMI. Missouri Senator Eric Schmidt delivers a passionate monologue at today's Senate hearing with FBI Director Kash Patel and highlights that the political violence in America is not organic, stating that the George Soros empire has financed a vast ecosystem of radicals all working together, dropping off bricks at riots. Listen, if you've been listening to me for the last couple of days, what did I mention? I think it was yesterday. I explained that it happened either in Austin or it might have been in Dallas back in 2020 during the summer, the whole summer of love bullshit with the George Floyd riots. There was people who had caught on camera this box truck, unmarked white box truck, that pulled up to an intersection at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they lowered an entire pallet of bricks, loose bricks, onto a pallet, onto that intersection street corner, right on the sidewalk, and they drove off at like 4:15 in the morning. And surprise, surprise, what happened later that day? A big, massive protest showed up then, and then all of a sudden, tons of bricks started getting thrown at cops because they staged it, they set it up there, and it's probably people like the George Soros guys who were doing this shit. So really appreciate that he brought this up.
Thousands upon thousands of people gleefully celebrating a father of 2 young children getting gunned down in broad daylight. I wish I wouldn't have seen that video. I wish my kids would not have seen that video.
Oh, yeah, man. You know, a lot of kids
Blue
saw that.
Sky, the left-wing alternative.
A lot of kids did because, you know, they're trying to keep kids under, what's the age now? Is it 15 or I know under 13 has always been the what Facebook at least claims that they're trying to keep kids under 13 off of the platform. But there are tons of teenagers under 18 years old that saw that video. There's no question about it. When they went to school the next day, you know, all these kids saw it. They saw the close-ups and everything. And frankly, I honestly didn't even think about that, but you know that happened. Look, if I was in middle school at the time, having a smartphone in my pocket, especially in high school, I mean, how could you not see that if you're in school? Everybody else is looking at it. So, yeah, I can imagine the millions of children that actually watched that happen in Charlie Kirk because they had it on their phone.
Alternative to X was so overwhelmed with these posts that the platform was forced to issue a statement warning its users to stop glorifying the murder.
Yeah,
and
Blue
it
Sky
wasn't just
did that.
It wasn't just random social media troll.
And you know what? I don't think Blue Sky did that because Blue Sky was appalled that people were celebrating it so heavily, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I think Blue Sky released that because it was a warning to people celebrating that, hey, there's employers out here, tons of people getting fired, people are calling you out for all this shit. You might want to tone that down on here because, you know, you wouldn't want to lose your job. They didn't say that, but I know that's why they released that, giving them a warning that, you know, shit's happening to people who are celebrating over here. That's just my opinion, but I know that's why they did that.
It was journalists, elite college professors, and even politicians, all but saying Charlie's assassination was justified because of what he thought, because of what he said.
Absolutely.
We saw the flood of hit pieces, the most powerful media outlets in the nation dishonestly attacking and villainizing Charlie for the most vicious possible terms. How can you ask us to unite under that? There can be no unity between good and evil. Somebody has to win this thing. And as a country, we have to absolutely reject it. And don't tell me it's both sides. It didn't happen in a vacuum. Over the past decade, we've seen an explosion of political violence, not just one-off lone wolf attacks, but organized, systemic political violence at a mass scale. It is not organic.
It's on the left.
It is the offspring of a dark and clandestine system funded in part with our own tax dollars, winning with a large network of foundations, NGOs, activist organizations, and front groups. This system lurks behind every radical leftist movement in our nation today. The George Soros empire has financed a vast ecosystem of radicals, all working together, dropping off bricks at riots to unleash a tidal wave of violently anarchists on our streets and to prop it up in an army of researchers and experts and journalists and propagandists who downplay the political violence.
Well, I will say, oh shit, okay, it's over. So I will say though, what organizations like the Soros organization is going to say is, well, you can't prove that was us. And in large part, you probably can't because they you know they're not keeping records. Like they'll you could probably trace a paper trail back to a pallet of bricks getting purchased. Maybe there is a way to get to the bottom of it, but for the most part, we don't know all of these activist organizations because they're being protected by the mainstream media and the radical left and the professors and everybody else, the overlords or whatever the fuck you want to call them, the establishment. They're trying to protect them so they don't get exposed because they are the ones that are funneling tons of money into all of these riots and all of these protests that have been happening for years and years. But Democrats, they cannot possibly walk away from this. There is no way. Too many people have seen it. Charlie Kirk was killed in broad daylight, like in the middle of a weekday. And it went all over the place immediately. And the mainstream news, because it was an insanely hot topic to talk about, there's no way you can't talk about that because everybody was. If the mainstream news was going to try to bury that Charlie Kirk was shot on that day, and if they just talked about whatever else was going on in the news, it wouldn't have made a difference. Everybody was sharing that all over the place. So there's no way they're going to be able to walk away from this. And the millions of people who saw what happened, it just makes me just wonder what are the midterm elections really going to look like? Because obviously Republicans have plenty of ammunition against Democrats right now. And all they're going to try, the only thing they could try to do is try to say, well, he had Republican family members. Yeah, what extreme leftist doesn't? All these leftists, they all have Republican family members. Most of them probably have majority Republican family members. It's just the way it is. I mean, everybody's got Republicans in their family, maybe except a few minority who live in the deepest of deep blue cities. Maybe they might not have anybody on the right who's in their family, but the vast majority of people do. And it's, I don't know, man, it's going to be really interesting to see how that's going to play out over the next year or so. But of course, we would give it all back just for that to have never happened, man. That was too traumatizing for children to have seen. Happened right in front of his wife and kids. It's just the most horrible thing ever. And the fucking nerve for them to suggest that he was a right winger or why don't we just get along, sing kumbaya? Well, how about we just all hold hands and admit that political violence must be stopped, which it won't because Democrats are protecting the extremists on the left and they're not going to do a damn thing to stop them. Otherwise, this guy who was given that speech talking about them dropping off piles of bricks, Democrats would have absolutely said 100%, we're going to go after all of these radical left-wing institutions who are funneling money into all of this, but they're not going to do that. Instead, they're going to change the fucking subject. That's all they're going to end up doing. Anyway, from Eric Schmidt, it's time to be honest about leftism. 25% of very liberal Americans say political violence can be justified. 55% of those on the left say it would be at least somewhat justified to kill Donald Trump. How can we come together with people like this? I don't think you can.
Already, we're hearing people talk about Charlie's assassination in those terms. We're told that we can't possibly know what drove a killer to plan and carry out a murder of the most prominent conservative activist in America. But that's a lie. We do know. The facts are plain and clear, and we have to speak truth in this moment, or there's no other side of the mountain. The vast majority of Americans are against political violence, but there is a vocal, active minority that encourages and celebrates it, and that minority is overwhelmingly on the left. Just last week, a YouGov poll found that a full 25% of those people who describe themselves as very liberal say it can be justified for citizens to use violence to achieve political goals. Less than 3% of very conservative Americans say the same. That's too many. That is 3% too many. But we are lying if we think that this is a both sides thing. It's not.
It ain't. Nope.
We have to confront it. And you're going to have an important job of rooting out these terrorists. This is an ideology that runs very deep. The numbers are virtually identical to the ones I just noted when it comes to whether or not it's okay to celebrate the deaths of people whom we disagree with. And while large majorities in both parties were opposed to celebrating political violence, Democrats overall were nearly twice as likely as Republicans to believe that it is usually or always acceptable to celebrate the death of a public
more than
figure
twice.
they oppose.
Definitely more than twice.
What in the hell is going on?
No, somebody shared a poll somewhere saying that it wasn't 25%, it was more like 35% Democrats justify it, or extreme liberals. I don't know, like not just your everyday Democrats, but the ones who are more extreme left, as opposed to those who identify themselves as like extreme conservative or as far right wing, I guess is you can reasonably get at. That was only 7%. I mean, that's not half. That's like a quarter of the amount. So I don't know. I'm sure that there's probably all kinds of different people who are asking those questions. It could have been just a public poll somewhere on X or something. Not the one that I read. I read from somewhere else. I think it was in some news article somewhere. But anyway.
Earlier this year, a poll found that more than 55% of people on the left believe that it would be at least somewhat justified to murder Donald Trump.
Insane.
These are not
people
just
are
some
brain dead.
abstractions on a page. These are our fellow citizens. How can we come together with people who believe these things? We've all seen the...
I bet 55% of Democrat politicians also agree with that murdering Donald Trump is just simply justified. I bet maybe even more than 55%.
Over the past week, not just a fringe few, but thousands upon thousands of people gleefully celebrating a father of two young children getting gunned down in broad daylight. I wish I wouldn't have seen that video. I wish my kids would not have seen that video. Blue Sky, the left-wing alternative to X, was so overwhelmed with these posts that the platform was forced to issue a statement.
Okay, all right, yeah, we got to that point. I knew that it would overlap just a little bit, or I had my suspicion that it did. So yeah, that was pretty much the point where he got into the one before. I actually should have flipped those two, but that's all right. So from Senate Judiciary Democrats update, Kash Patel lied under oath. He only cares about Donald Trump and erasing evidence of his crimes, not the American people. These people are fucking scumbags, man. Senate Judiciary Democrats, it sure looks like Kash Patel perjured himself before Congress. Kash Patel to Senator Booker, I'm not aware of any plans to punish or terminate FBI agents or personnel. I'm sure they're taking that extremely out of context. Not aware of doesn't mean yes or no. That's just one of those generic types of answers where they can, like, if they're not exactly sure, they can just simply say, I'm not aware of, and he's not perjuring himself at all. If he's not aware of it, he's not aware of it. So anyway, here, we'll just play this, or hold on, let me just click on this first and then go back. Sometimes X will play it in that little bitty little corner.
Are you aware of any plans or discussions to punish in any way, including termination, FBI agents or personnel associated with Trump investigations? Yes or no?
I'm not aware of that,
Thank you.
Senator.
All right. Not aware of that. Of course, we don't have any other context. We don't know what he said before that or what he said after that. But they've already written this big-ass letter, I guess just based on those 10 seconds. But anyway, let's see. From Michael Horowitz, Dear Inspector General Horowitz, I've received highly credible information from multiple sources that Kash Patel has been personally directing the ongoing purge of career civil servants at the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Well, yeah, they are. They're cleaning up the FBI. They are, because many of them have been politicized, and they have been politicized for a long time. Plus, 90% of people who work in Washington, D.C., who work for the federal government, 90% who vote, they vote Democrat. And a lot of them are pretty extreme these days, as most Democrats tend to be. So, yeah, if they're finding out that there's FBI agents who are politicizing certain issues, or they're choosing not to investigate this, or they're not doing a good enough job at doing that, then, yeah, I mean, that's the job of the FBI director. He should be weeding out all this shit. He really should be. And the 90% of those who vote, I'm sure he's not going to purge. Look, like 100% of government officials don't vote. I mean, a lot of them don't vote. I don't know what percentage of them do vote, but I just know 90% of them vote Democrat. We're not seeing like 20% of the FBI getting purged from the agency right now. At least not that I'm aware of. So, all right. So anyway, although Mr. Patel is President Trump's nominee to be FBI director, he is still a private citizen with no role in government. I understand that Mr. Patel's directives are being carried out through the concerted efforts of the White House Deputy Chief of Staff to the President, Stephen Miller, Acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bovee, and several members of a newly established FBI Director Advisory Team. The alleged misconduct is beyond the pale and must be investigated immediately. So pretty much anything Democrats are trying to do to just obstruct and stonewall, it's just the only page they have left in their playbook. That's all they have left. It's just to deny, to stonewall, to try to propagandize and make up shit. So, not saying that's 100% false. Maybe there are a few people, maybe Kash Patel wasn't being 100% honest. I don't know, because I'm not in the FBI. I don't know the inner workings. I'm just seeing what you're seeing. So this is from townhall.com. This is the exchange with Cory Booker. It's 4 minutes long. Cory Booker accused FBI Director Kash Patel of being a failed leader. This might be the last time I have a hearing with you because I don't think you're long for your job. Patel was having none of it. If the FBI under my 7-month leadership were failing, why do we have? And then he goes on to drop some insane statistics, insanely good statistics. All right, so let's give this a listen.
Mr. Patel, in
And a
just
watch
8
while we're
months,
at
you
it.
have assaulted the institutional integrity of the FBI. But I know FBI field agents. I've worked with them in Newark.
Oh, yeah, but James Comey, he was just the stellar FBI director. He didn't do anything wrong, though, did he? No, of course James Comey didn't do anything bad.
No matter how truly bad you are, you can't undermine the legacy of agents who fight every day to keep us safe, but you can tarnish the integrity of the agency and undermine the agency's capacity. I believe
They're scared of Director Patel because of how effective he is, because they know he's going to be very transparent, and they know that he's legitimately fighting for the American people and not for the establishment. And I don't believe that he's ever been a politician. I mean, like they just said in that letter that he's just a civil servant and hasn't worked in government. So I would assume that he's probably more on the side of the American people than anybody else, because I bet a lot of other people who were the FBI director, I'm sure many of them were probably in the bureaucracy for many, many years.
you're failing as a leader, and that your failure does have serious implications for the safety and security of Americans and our families. We're more vulnerable to domestic and foreign attack because of your failures of leadership. I don't think you're fit to hand the bureau. But here's the thing, Mr. Patel. I think you're not going to be around long. I think this might be your last oversight hearing. Because as much as you supplicate yourself to the will of Donald Trump and not the Constitution of the United States of America,
hope.
Donald Trump has shown us in his first term and in this term, he is not loyal to people like you. He will cut you loose.
Ain't
This may be
happening.
the last time I have a hearing with you because I don't think you're long for your job. But I'm going to tell you this. I pray for you. I
Oh,
pray for
bullshit,
you
dude. You're a fucking
that
atheist.
you can
I'm sure
step
he is.
up and defend your oath,
Democrat.
defend the Constitution.
He worships
and do
the
a
cult.
much better job of defending this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you want to say anything?
Yes, sir.
Fuck yeah, he does.
That rant.
Oh, man,
of
he's going to
false
go.
information
All right, I'll shut up.
does not bring this country together. If you want to work on bringing this country, it's my time, not yours.
My God.
If
You're
you
gonna
want to
lecture
talk
me
about
dividing this country,
it is
I
my
follow
time.
you on your social media posts that
It is
tear
my
this country
time
apart.
to
There
address
should be a
your
Mute him.
falsehoods.
Oh,
You are an
you can try
embarrassment
all
to the
you
division
want
in this
to
country.
not take
Senator,
responsibility
it is my time.
for what
You
you
had
have
your
said.
time.
Sir, you're
Your
making
time
a
is
mockery of this
over.
committee. Sir, you don't tell me my time is over.
You
The
know how
people
far
of
He just
New York
did.
tell me what my time is. You can't lecture me.
You can tell me
Sir,
my time's over?
You may be the charge of the
I'm not
FBI,
going anywhere.
but I am not afraid of you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Not afraid of you.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Senator Booker, I announced at the beginning
Oh,
of
he's
this
so
meeting
emotional.
that this back and forth talking over
He needs to quit
each
taking all
other
that estrogen.
doesn't work. And I said if that happened, I asked Patel not to respond, and I was going to give him some time after the senator's time was up to respond. And that's he has
Yeah, just
the
sit there,
privilege to
sip
do
your
that
fucking soy latte and shut the
uninterrupted.
fuck
Mr.
up.
Chairman, one point of
Go
order.
ahead, Mr.
I've
Patel.
watched him talk over us, and you've never once criticized him for us not even being able to get our questions out.
Well,
He has been rude and disrespectful to
Yeah,
senator
shut the fuck
after
up, man.
senator.
And when the senators were not giving him a chance to answer, I didn't stop the senator either. Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right. Yeah,
If
shut the fuck up,
FBI,
dude.
Under my 7-month leadership, we're failing this administration in this country. Why do we have 23,000 violent felons arrested this year alone? A double increase from that time last year.
Yep.
Why is it that we have seized 6,000 weapons? Why have we found 1,500 child predators and arrested them? Why have we have 300 human traffickers in jail? Why have we found and identified 4,700 children? Why have we seized 1,600 kilograms of fentanyl in enough to kill a third of the American public, a 25% increase alone from last year. 88,000 kilograms of cocaine seized, 700 kilograms of meth seized, and that's just on our criminal operations in summer heat. How is it possible that we're taking 8 kilograms off the streets of the cities in New Jersey and preventing the deaths of 607,000 people this year alone, a failure of the FBI and my leadership? How is it that we have counterintelligence arrests already this year exceeding the numbers from the entirety of last year? 33% increase in PRC, 83% in Russia, 60% in the CI space as it relates to Iran, and we haven't even talked about CT, the southern border, the northern border.
Oh my God, you mic fucking dropped, man. Oh, Senator Booker, you just got fucking spanked, bitch. All right, Senator Cory Booker, this is from him. Kash Patel has made our country less safe. He has put fealty to Trump over his sworn oath to the Constitution. Oh my God. All right, so I guess if he just goes on a rant, I don't know, I guess I'll just let it play, whatever.
Who are on the task force that fight against Russian oligarchs have not been reassigned. Public Corrections Squad reassigned. People who defend us, defend children reassigned. You're not denying that. I've seen you time and time again attack my colleagues'
they don't get reassigned.
Questions as a way to not answer the question. So let me end with this. I believe you have made our country weaker and less safe.
I think we heard otherwise already.
Vulnerable to a major event, and I pray to God it doesn't happen. You've gutted the Bureau of Institutional Knowledge and Expertise.
Look, there's no way that any well, of course they're gonna deny it, but anybody who's got any reason of common sense that if not for the Democrats, this country would be a lot safer, a lot more secure, a lot more polite, and we would still have our strong nuclear family values. It would be a peaceful society if not for what the Democrats have been doing for, at minimum, for the last 10 years.
You fired or pushed out seasoned FBI officials, many with more than 20 years of experience, purging thousands of serious law enforcement officials who spent their careers keeping us safe, only to lower hiring standards in order to find anyone to replace them.
That's DEI, dumb fuck. That's not what Kash Patel's doing.
And shockingly, you admitted in this hearing to Senator Coons that it would take 14 years to fill the vacancies at your agency. Many are the result of your purge.
I'm sure a lot of it probably, oh shit, fuck. I'm sure a lot of that has to do with probably Congress, probably stonewalling the FBI's ability to effectively go through their hiring process. Yeah, let me go ahead. I'm not sure where we were.
Standards in order to find anyone to replace them. And shockingly, you admitted in this hearing to Senator Coons that it would take 14 years to fill the vacancies at your agency. Many are the result of your purge. 20% of FBI agents are doing low-level immigration enforcement instead of their mission-critical work. You've disbanded entire...
But look, if they're so understaffed, then how are they able to go after all those operations like Summer Heat alone, and him going through those statistics, arresting tens of thousands of people and recovering thousands of missing children? How are they able to do that with such a severely understaffed FBI?
Task forces that stop election interference, foreign influence, public corruption, and who benefits
all under
from
Biden,
this?
I'm sure.
Corrupt people benefit from it. Criminals benefit from it. Vladimir Putin benefits from it.
Oh,
and
please
it really
do tell
makes me
how.
wonder who you're looking out for. It makes me think we can't trust you as a nation. You swear to release the Epstein files, but now you're withholding the Epstein files.
Hey, that I won't hold against him.
You have a suspect in a serious assassination. Whoops, then you don't have a suspect. You know nothing about plans to remove FBI agents, yet you're directly involved in those plans. In the words of an ex-FBI official, you are overseeing, and I quote, generational destruction of the nation's premier law enforcement agency. Mr. Patel, in just 8 months,
I haven't heard how.
The institutional integrity of the FBI. But I know FBI field agents. I've worked with them in Newark.
These are all just conclusions without anything backing up what it is that he's concluding. There's nothing there.
Truly bad you are, you can't undermine the legacy of agents who fight every day to keep us safe, but you can tarnish the integrity of the agency and undermine the agency's capacity. I believe you're failing as a leader, and that your failure does have serious implications for the safety and security of Americans and our families.
That's really the best that he came up with. That's on his own. That's on his own X account. It's just a bunch of conclusions without any substance. There's like he's got like conclusive talking points, but he doesn't go into anything like Vladimir Putin. Of course, he's going to throw that out because that's all the Democrats are obsessed with talking about is Russia, Russia, Russia. It's been like 10 fucking years at this point, and they just can't stop talking about it. All right, whatever. We'll move on. So this is from Attorney General Pamela Bondi. Hate speech that crosses the line into threats of violence is not protected by the First Amendment. It's a crime. For far too long, we've watched the radical left normalize threats, call for assassinations, and cheer on political violence. That era is over. Under 18 U.S.C. Section 875C, it is a federal crime to transmit any communication containing any threat to kidnap any person or any threat to injure the person of another. Likewise, 18 U.S.C. Section 876 and 18 U.S.C. Section 115 make it a felony to threaten public officials, members of Congress, or their families. You cannot call for someone's murder. You cannot swat a member of Congress. You cannot dox a conservative family and think it will be brushed off as free speech. These acts are punishable crimes, and every single threat will be met with the full force of the law. Free speech protects ideas, debate, even dissent, but it does not and will never protect violence. It is clear this violent rhetoric is designed to silence others from voicing conservative ideals. We will never be silenced, not for our families, not for our freedoms, and never for Charlie. His legacy will not be erased by fear or intimidation. 53,000 likes, 8.8 million views. That was a great one, man. Really appreciate that she said that. All right, now move into the White House. Powerful words from DNI Gabbard, DNI Tulsi Gabbard. Quote, we cannot allow ourselves to be terrorized into silence. We need to live Charlie Kirk's example. And it's not a video. It's just an image that they wanted to share the quote, which is a really good quote. All right, so this is from Senator Dick Durbin with the Democrats. Republicans are not Nazis. Democrats are not evil. Democrats are not responsible for the murder of Charlie Kirk. Republicans are not responsible for the murder of Melissa Hortman. Opponents are not enemies. We're Americans. I don't know. I'll just let you just take that for what it is. All right. See, Rapid Response 47, which I believe, yeah, we already did hear this with his exchange with Cory Booker. I suppose I'll just play it rather than just reading this. But if it's clearly every second of what we've already heard, I'll play it until there's overlap. But if it overlaps from the get-go, then, we'll just move on to the next one. All right, let's give this a go.
The last time I appeared before this committee was in January for my confirmation hearing. I told you then that if I were confirmed, I would provide and do everything I can to provide a safe and secure America. I promise to provide the courageous men and women of the FBI the tools and resources they need to crush violent crime and defend the homeland. I pledge myself to commit to full transparency, oversight, and accountability so we could restore the public's trust in the FBI. And that's exactly what I've done. Under this administration, the FBI has arrested more than 23,000 violent criminals. That's more than twice for the same time period from last year alone. 23,000, more than twice from the same time period last year. We've taken over 6,000 illegal firearms off the streets. That number is an exponential increase. We've identified and located more than 4,700 child victims. More than 4,700 child victims have been found by this FBI. That is a 35% increase from the same time period last year. 1,500 child predators have been arrested. That's a 5% increase from the same time last year. 300 human traffickers have been arrested. That's a 10% increase from the same time last year. Over 350 members of Tren de Aragua, foreign terrorist organization, have been arrested, and we have 42 ongoing cases. That is a 250% increase from the same time last year. Those are just some of the things the FBI is doing differently and better because we are leading the mission to crush violent crime and defend the homeland. We have also captured four top 10 fugitives from the FBI's top 10 most wanted list.
Damn.
To put that in perspective, that's the same amount I've captured in 7 months that my predecessor did during the entirety of the Biden administration. Those are real results, and the credit is to the men and women at the FBI.
Wow, man. Dropping those statistics. Yeah, I didn't hear that already. So that's good that I played that through. All right, so we're going to switch gears to Rapid Response 47, Donald J. Trump's Truth Social account. Breaking news and a big win for justice and law in Georgia. The Georgia Supreme Court just ruled that District Attorney Fani Willis and her team, quote unquote, of weaponized prosecutors are disqualified once and for all from the fake witch hunt against me and many other great American patriots People that were treated so unfairly and indeed viciously. Remember the mugshot? That's what this case is pertaining to. Willis and her lover, Nathan Wade, who she hired even though he was completely unqualified and had never prosecuted such a case before, blatantly lied under oath about their torrid love affair, the ridiculous amounts of money she paid him, their Caribbean vacations together, her clear campaign finance violations, unlawfully taking money from the honest taxpayers of Georgia, and most importantly, about their obsession with doing anything and everything they can to get Trump, which included destroying the lives of many other people. Just like the purely political, lawless, and dismissed witch hunts brought through the Biden White House by deranged Jack Smith and others, this unconstitutional Georgia hoax, together with the remaining shams in New York, should now be dead for good. The prosecutorial weaponization of Donald J. Trump had no limits. They went after their political opponent at levels never seen before and lost. They are now criminals who will hopefully pay serious consequences for their illegal actions. Our country was dead a year ago, in large part because of the illegal weaponization of the American justice system by the radical left Democrats. As we end illegal political lawfare, the USA is back now, bigger and better than ever before. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. What a great post. An excellent post. Definitely very thought out, and I don't think he missed anything. I think he was pretty clear. So, yeah, man, that's amazing. That's awesome that they did that. And yeah, like you said, it was all a witch hunt. It's been a witch hunt for the entire time. They had nothing on him. They got nothing on him. He's the Teflon Don, and that's just the way it is. And that's how extreme the Democrats have become. They want to make it, they want to get it to the point where if somebody is running for president as a Republican, especially someone who's not been in the establishment for years on end, they want to try to crucify them, especially with Trump not having any history in politics, because he represents the ability for anybody to become president without having to get the Democrats or really the Republicans' approval, or at least the establishment Republicans. But I would cut the Republicans some slack, though, because President Trump, he was a lifelong Democrat, wasn't he? For the majority of his life. And then he went to run as a Republican, and they let him do so. And yeah, it's been amazing, to say the least. All right, Senator Katie Boyd Britt. The Biden administration's reckless open border policies put the most vulnerable in unfathomable danger. The horrors we continue to uncover are directly fueled by the previous administration creating and enabling this humanitarian crisis. And this is from Daily Mail. Migrant children lost under the Biden administration found dead or working as sex slaves. This is absolutely insane, man. Absolutely crazy. Now, I'm not a fan of the Daily Mail at all, but, you know, I couldn't pass this up. So, migrant children lost under the Biden administration found dead or working as sex slaves. After an estimated 233 children who crossed the U.S.-Mexico border alone during President Joe Biden's tenure were lost, law enforcement has started to locate them, only to learn of the horrors they have faced. Since March, the Trump administration has tracked down 22,638 kids, which, by the way, there's still over 250,000 that are still missing. Just let that sink in for a minute. All right, anyway, finding some in deplorable conditions, dead, and others being used as sex slaves, officials told Fox News. Quote, we found children who have been raped, end quote, John Fabricator, HHS Office of Refugee Resettlement senior advisor told the network. We're talking about debt bondage, where children were being made to work off debt, trafficking debt. We're talking about children that were brought into situations and then treated like sexual slaves. At least 27 of those lost children have been confirmed dead, with causes of death ranging from murder, suicide, car accidents, or drug overdoses. Children are in horrific environments, just environments that they should not be in, where the sponsor is a heroin dealer and that child winds up dying of a heroin overdose, explained Fabricatori. Anyway, these children are classified by the government as unaccompanied minors. Remember hearing that buzzword over and over again last few years? Underage migrants who cross the U.S. border without a parent or legal guardian. And is that all we got? Oh, here, from Chris Oliveras. Watch an unaccompanied 2-year-old child from El Salvador explain she arrived in the U.S. by herself and that her parents are in the U.S. The child had a piece of paper with a phone number and a name, probably given to her by a left-wing organization. This morning, TXDPS encountered a group of 211 illegal immigrants in Maverick. See if this will play.
Venezuela, mamá.
Oh, sorry.
Venezuela.
Holy crap.
Sí.
Loud.
¿Qué tantos años tienes? ¿Dos años? ¿No vienes con tu mamá y tu papá? ¿No? ¿Venezuela? ¿Para dónde vas, mamá? ¿Dónde están? Estados Unidos? Okay.
Absolutely crazy. And there's more kids right there. Unbelievable. An uncle, older sibling, or other relative might be traveling with the child, however. The minor would be considered unaccompanied because they're not with a legal parent. Oftentimes, the parents were already in the U.S. and had saved up money to pay smugglers to bring their children in. In a heartbreaking video, a 2-year-old girl from El Salvador told Texas Department of Safety troopers who found her in November that she was on her way to reunite with her mom and dad. While kids have sometimes crossed the border alone, during presidency of Joe Biden, the number exploded alongside overall illegal immigration. Often, children were arriving at the border completely alone, pushed over the border wall by smugglers who abandoned them. In another shocking case, a 2-month-old boy was found in Rio Grande City, Texas, by Border Patrol agents. This is a chilling reminder of how children are being exploited by human smugglers and criminal organizations every day, the agency shared on its Instagram account in September of 23. In one instance, 2 brothers were found at the Texas-Mexico border with handwriting on their T-shirts with the child's name or the contact information of a relative in the U.S. Someone had written the contact information of family members in the U.S. on their clothing in marker. Unfucking real, man. Oh, yeah, there it is. Of course, they're going to blur that out. Personal, sensitive information. I mean, it's just fucking crazy, dude. Let's see. Hold on. So this kid, Wilto Gutierrez, a 10-year-old Nicaraguan migrant, was found alone on the border. He was reunited with his mother in Florida on May 28th of 2021 after almost 2 months in federal custody. Good grief. And these 2 unaccompanied children, ages 2 and 4, entered the U.S. alone near the Rio Grande River in Texas in July of 24. Agents determined that the siblings were from Honduras. Hold on, there were a couple others I skipped over. Okay, so we got this one. Ages 6 and 2 found by Border Patrol in Texas in September of 22 with their names on the shirts. September 23, Border Patrol agents in Rio Grande City, Texas found a 2-month-old left abandoned at the border. This is a chilling reminder of how children are being exploited by human smugglers and criminal organizations every day. This is absolutely insane. 470,000 children without parents or guardians crossed into the U.S. illegally between 2021 and 2024, according to government statistics. How many have they found so far? What was it, 22,000 or, rounding up to maybe 23,000? Yeah, there's still 470. So, yeah, it's a lot more than 250,000. It's like 200,000 more than that. It's insane. After an unaccompanied minor enters the U.S., the government's policy is to let the minor stay in the country. The government holds them in special shelters for children until they can be reunited with relatives in the U.S. However, these children are not deported. And I'm sure a lot of these parents they're trying to use this quote-unquote loophole by sending their children up into America so they get established into America, and then the parents can come over. I'm not sure if that's exactly what they're doing, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was what some of these individuals are at least planning on doing. Well, I mean, like, they already sent their kids up here with probably the plans to come over at some point. Biden officials were supposed to be vetting the adults who were claiming the kids to make sure they were actually related. Somehow, children were lost in the system, with the officials unable to verify the kids' whereabouts. There wasn't very good record keeping under the Biden administration. Yeah, probably no record keeping. It's drawing that data back in, being able to identify addresses where these children went, who these sponsors actually were. In many cases, that data is horrible. What the Biden administration was taking in and putting into our computer systems was not the right information. So now we have to draw all that back in and deeply investigate into where some of these children went. In some cases, the adults the kids were released to, called sponsors, were not DNA tested to ensure they were actually related. In other cases, the addresses where the kids were being taken to were not verified to make sure the child was actually living there. Under the current administration, DNA testing is a requirement, as is proof of income, criminal background checks, fingerprinting, and identification verification. Dude, Democrats are evil. They're so fucking evil, man. This is absolutely atrociously evil, what they did. Just to let them in, no paperwork, we'll just write down whatever you tell us. Yeah, you can go. We don't care if you're related or not. Just, welcome to America, Estados Unidos, and, have a great time. Not that they care what's going to happen to these kids. It's unbelievable. Also, they can gain, how many, so they could gain, 4 House seats or 5 House seats. They did all of this in the name of power to allow 470,000 children to go missing, and God knows what. I mean, I don't know, man. It's absolutely deplorable and scary. All right. So let's move on to the next thing. Even though it's going to be hard to do, man. I should have saved that one for last. All right. Caroline Levitt, Stephen Miller, Trump will smash vast domestic terror movement. And this is from newsmax.com. And by the way, that article, the one I just went through, it'll be linked in the description. All the articles that I open, they're all linked down there below if you want to check them out. Stephen Miller, Trump will smash vast domestic terror movement. Let's see. It looks like I might be able to get away with just playing the video. It looks like it's related. If it'll play. I don't know why they always mute that.
Now, the Ketanji Brown Jackson
Here we go.
is particularly fascinating because I've never seen in my life an example of a majority holding that so thoroughly eviscerates a single justice of the Supreme Court, in this case, Ketanji Brown Jackson. In other words, they didn't really disagree with her ruling, her dissent, but they so vociferously condemned the lack of intellectual rigor and legal analysis in her dissent.
Yeah.
So for people who've read Supreme Court opinions, it was a thrashing. They humiliated Ketanji Brown Jackson in just completely dismantling her so-called opinion.
Okay, well, obviously that wasn't related. It's Stephen Miller. It said Stephen Miller in the video. I don't know. I guess I call that clickbait maybe, but I think I've played the Newsmax, listened to the article before, and I think it sounded like way too robotic and way too AI-y. So I'll just read through some of this, and if it's a longer article, I'll just read, just some of it, and then I'll link it below if you want to read the rest of it. All right. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller on Monday called for an expansive federal response to what he described as organized networks contributing to political violence, invoking the death of conservative leader Charlie Kirk as the impetus for his remarks. The White House will use the Departments of Justice and Homeland Security to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy those networks, Miller said to Vice President J.D. Vance, who hosted Monday's episode of The Charlie Kirk Show. Miller said the networks are engaged in coordinated harassment and intimidation. He pointed to tactics such as doxing, online targeting, and street demonstrations, saying these actions contribute to a climate of political hostility. Look, even Supreme Court justices, Brett Kavanaugh, they did the same thing. They doxed his address and a ton of protesters showed up. I don't know if they actually was it his place that they spray painted? Like they spray painted like a big swastika on his garage door or something like that. I don't know. I might have that wrong, but I'm pretty sure somebody high up like that happened to him. I mean, one of many. They've done this to many people. He characterized the activity as a vast domestic terror movement, but did not name specific organizations or provide evidence of formal coordination. He also suggested some networks operate as cells and described them as fostering an environment in which violence becomes likelier. Among similar lines, a White House press poll report said President Donald Trump has said he would declare the far-left group Antifa a terrorist group. Finally, I've been waiting to see that. I've been calling for that for a while now, especially after what happened with Charlie Kirk. If there's any left-wing group that you could consider to be a terrorist group, it would be them. And of course, when you ask Democrats what Antifa is, they just say, Antifa is just an idea. It's not an organization. It's just an idea. It's something I would do, Trump said. I would do that 100%. He also suggested RICO cases against violent protesters. I 100% agree with that too. And I hope they do. I know RICO can be complicated, but yeah, they've absolutely got to go through with this. And they really got to start, going after it right now because, I mean, they've got a lot of powerful people that are backing them up. And I'm sure a lot of these people are working in the government. A lot of bureaucrats are probably secretly in with these organizations. They may not be out demonstrating and protesting, but I'm sure that they're behind the scenes in government and probably have the ability to, I don't know, destroy evidence or maybe try to make a paper trail disappear or something like that, which they've probably been doing that all along, or at least as much as they possibly can. Anyway, linking his comments to the assassination of Kirk, co-founder of the conservative student action group Turning Point USA, Miller said Kirk's final message to him emphasized the need to confront radical organizations that foment violence. Miller vowed that any response would be carried out in Charlie's name. Miller stopped short of outlining concrete policy steps or legal mechanisms for such a crackdown. While he cited the powers of DOJ and DHS, he did not detail what statutes or investigative tools might be used. This has raised questions about whether Miller's remarks signal an imminent government initiative or intended primarily as a political message. Federal officials have not confirmed any new directives or investigations stemming from his comments. So I'll just leave it there. There's a little bit more of it left, but it'll, like I said, newsmax.com in the link down below in the description. Then we'll head to Rapid Response 47. The President of the United States and the First Lady of the United States are officially wheels up for the United Kingdom. Let's see them taking off. Just going up the stairs. All 7 swing states. Every last one. Heading to the UK. We could say 250, motherfucker. He's gonna go brag about the United States 250th anniversary. I read that somewhere. Like, not that he's gonna brag, but apparently that's gonna come up with him meeting with King Charles, like the fact that the United States is about to celebrate its 250th anniversary, and I just found that to be hilarious. The President and First Lady have arrived. They are there, and this was 3 hours ago. Let's see exactly what time. It's the White House. I'm assuming they probably posted it like within a minute of them arriving, I would think. So roughly 4:42 p.m. our time. Eastern time. Ooh, that's loud. Oh my God. Damn, they got a lot of people out there. It's like British military or maybe the police. I know that's a police officer with the little checker design. Yep, paying their respects. I always like seeing that whenever there's, whether if it's officials or police or military from other countries just standing in line, just paying their respects to the President of the United States. It's really cool. Of course, we do the same thing whenever any other foreign leader comes for a visit. Just being respectful is all. All right. Tom Emmer, the American people are fed up with out-of-control crime. This week, the House GOP will vote to ensure our capital city serves as a blueprint for law and order across the country. Let's hear what he has to say. It's about a minute.
Since day one, President Trump has made it clear that safety and security are possible if leaders have the will to do it.
Damn straight.
The president's decisive action in the District of Columbia has resulted in over 2,400 arrests and over 200 illegal firearms seized. Thanks to his efforts, our nation's capital is now safe for residents and visitors
fancy
alike.
That.
This week, House Republicans are going to take action to solidify the president's crime crackdown here in the district with legislation that ensures criminals are kept off the streets and that their crimes receive appropriate sentences. With these bills, Republicans are empowering the city's law enforcement officers, fighting back against rampant juvenile crime, and making the district courts accountable again. The American people are fed up with the out-of-control crime, and our capital city should serve as a blueprint for law and order across the country. By setting the example here, President Trump and House Republicans are delivering on the promise to make America safe again.
Yeah, and what pisses me off is that Democrats are forcing their hand as the federal government to just reach out more with regard to law enforcement. I'd prefer smaller government, not bigger government, but Democrats are kind of giving them no choice because they're letting criminals run rampant throughout all these cities. And I'm all about the 10th Amendment. I think that the state should be handling all this on their own. However, they're not really giving them a whole lot of choice if crime is just running rampant. Although, on the other hand, the people that live in these cities, they did vote for their officials. And, I mean, like, don't vote for them if you don't like crime. So, whatever. I mean, it's good for political messaging. I'm sure it's going to look really good for the midterms, things like that. I know there's a political element to it, and it sounds really good. We're going to, instill law and order, crack down on crime, and we'll go to any state, any city where it's necessary. So I just wish that Democrats wouldn't have had to have pushed it this far to the point where the federal government has to start getting involved and descending on different cities across the country. It just fucking sucks, man. All right, Department of State, Secretary Rubio. The president is the only leader in the world that can talk to both the Ukrainians, the Europeans, and also to the Russians. It's a quote from the video, so I'm just going to play the video. All right, here we go.
No leader in the world has done more to try to end that war than President Trump had. Multiple calls, multiple meetings with Zelensky, including probably next week again in New York. And so the president remains true. He inherited this 3.5-year-old war from the Biden administration. He's trying to do everything possible to bring it to an end. We've been working closely with our partners in Europe on security guaranteed, because that's going to be necessary in any negotiated settlement. And he's going to keep trying. It's at least possible if he wants to achieve it. At some point, the president may conclude it's not possible. He's not there yet, but he could get to that point. But, he's going to really go the extra mile. There's a way to end this war. He just wants it to stop. Thousands and thousands of people dying. The casualty rate for the Russians, I think in July they lost 20,000 soldiers. And then, of course, we talk about the suffering of civilians all throughout Ukraine, every single night, the drone attacks, the air attacks, the destruction. It's going to take a generation to rebuild the country.
Well, not to mention, I'm not sure how real it really is, but apparently there's Ukrainian military members that are trolling around neighborhood streets and finding military-age men and just snatching them off the street and throwing them into the service. That's happening a lot too, supposedly. I've seen those videos. There's a couple of compilations over on YouTube that I've seen.
He wants the war to end. And if we could play a role, he's the only leader in the world that can talk to both the Ukrainians, Europeans, and also to the Russians. President Trump. He's the only one that can. And he's not going to easily forfeit that role because he's the only one that can play it.
All right. Yep, he certainly is. I mean, there really isn't anybody else. Plus, Trump in many ways is just the voice of reason. Plus, lead by strength. And yeah, he's the guy to make it happen. If he doesn't, then I think it's just, I don't even know what ends up happening between Ukraine and Russia. I guess they must just have to dial up the war, dial up the drama, get more and more aggressive. I guess that's what it would end up turning into. Hopefully not. Hopefully they'll put a stop to it. All right, Secretary Kristi Noem. This week, a brave ICE-Gov officer was dragged many yards by a car after a criminal illegal alien resisted arrest. I did cover this a couple of days ago. I think it might have even been on Friday. And this came with the video of the incident, so I figured that was worth bringing up again. Plus, this was from 9 hours ago. His life was put at risk, and he sustained serious injuries. President Trump has been clear. If politicians will not put the safety of their citizens first, this administration will. I was on the ground in Chicago today to make clear we are not backing down. Just this morning, DHS took violent offenders off the streets with arrests for assault, DUI, and felony stalking. Our work is only beginning. So let's take a look at this. Obviously, the guy that ran over the agent. Or maybe it was him. Yep, fuck off with you. Damn, man, they got the whole cavalry out there. Let's go. At least cracking down on crime. Like being there for the long term, I know that's not their intention. They deployed the National Guard to round up illegal immigrants in LA earlier this summer. And surprise, surprise, Democrats, they're not there anymore. It was just a temporary thing so they can round up the criminals, the worst of the criminal illegals. And then maybe down the road, we'll start rounding up a lot of the everyday illegals. They just want to get rid of the worst of the worst. The ones that were let out of virtually all the prisons across Latin America and they sent them up here. Those are the ones they want to go after first. All right, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The Washington Post refused to print our full quote we provided, so we will do it for them. So this is a quote. It looks like the article, the headline reads, 60 violations in 50 days inside ICE's giant tent facility at Fort Bliss. As the Trump administration rushes to open massive makeshift holding centers nationwide, ICE's own inspectors say the Marquis, Texas project is violating dozens of federal standards for immigrant detention. So here's the whole quote. The Washington Post reached out Wednesday afternoon with 42 questions, 90 minutes before a national tragedy occurred. In the wake, they sent an additional 15 questions for a total of 57. ICE asked for an additional day to reply, but the Post appears steadfast in pursuing forward with the story it clearly had already written. ICE is happy to provide a thorough response following publication after it has had the time necessary to reply. So that's their quote. I think I actually dropped a comment on this. It's not worth giving that rag the time of day ever again. They are no longer a legitimate publication who holds the public's interest at heart. Yeah, I stand by that. All right, this is from Janine Pirro. Under President Trump's leadership, we are experiencing a reduction in crime never seen before in D.C. Homicides down 53%, robberies down 57%, carjackings down 75%, and overall violent crime is down 39%. Those numbers just keep climbing and climbing, man. You love to see it.
Hi, everyone. It's Judge Janine. It's Tuesday, September 16th.
Judge Janine
and
Pirro.
Last night, there were 59 arrests. 4 guns were taken off the street, bringing a total of 2,725 arrests and 265 guns that were removed from the streets pursuant to President Trump's executive order to make D.C. safe and beautiful. And that's exactly what the president has done. Right now, we are experiencing a reduction in crime like we have never seen in this district. Right now, there is a 75% reduction in carjackings. There is a 57% reduction in robberies, a 53% reduction in homicides, and an overall 39% reduction in violent crime. All while we continue to prosecute more cases because we're making more criminals accountable for their actions. There will be consequences. And thank you, President Trump, for giving us the ability, the resources, and the determination to actually make good on your promise to make D.C. safe again.
Hell yeah, man. Let's go. Yeah, my car's not exactly the easiest car to steal because it's a stick shift. So the majority of people out there, they don't know the first thing on how to drive stick. Can't even start the car. It's not just simply putting the key in. Yeah, I actually have a real key. And I put it in, you turn it. Yeah, if you don't know how to drive stick, you're not going to be able to get it started unless you Google it or something. All right. Anyway, Rep. John Larson, the White House spread trumped up allegations to justify their illegal power grab, but we know the truth. Donald Trump wants to wrestle control of the Fed to deliver for his billionaire buddies while you're stuck paying more. I stand with Lisa Cook. Of course, they don't, and I'm sure it's not going to be in the article either. They kind of glaze over the fact that she hasn't been indicted yet, but she's currently under investigation because, oh, fuck, dude, they're paywalling me. Fucking New York Times. All right, appeals court says Lisa Cook can remain on Fed board. The decision came the day before the Federal Reserve begins a 2-day meeting at which policymakers are expected to cut ... Let me see if I can get around it. It's happened before. It might happen again. See if I do an incognito window. I don't think the New York Times is going to let me. Expected to cut interest rates. Begins a 2-day meeting at which policymakers are expected to cut interest rates. All right. All right, whatever. Yeah, they paywalled me. But yeah, she purchased a house in Minnesota, or not Minnesota, in Michigan. Said it was her primary residence. And then 2 weeks later, she purchased another house, took out another mortgage in the state of Georgia, said the same thing, that was also her primary residence. And investigators are claiming that neither are her primary residence. I think one of those two she's renting out or something like that. And she took out both of those mortgages within 2 weeks of each other. And what she said was that, well, it was a mistake. It was an oversight. I didn't do anything illegal. But it's like, okay, you know, maybe they might give you the first one, which they won't because it's fraud. It's a felony. But to do the same thing 2 weeks later, not 2 years, not 2 decades, 2 weeks later. And that's why President Trump ordered her firing. And of course, she appealed it. And of course, they said she can stay on the Fed board. But yeah, she is under investigation. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. I don't know why they're spending so much time investigating it when they've just got basically 2 pieces of paper that's clearly fraudulent. But I know they want to be thorough. It's the federal government. They want to make sure they got everything lined up. Usually when they indict you, they already have everything completed for their case. Like they don't even need to worry about discovery in most cases because it's already all tied up, ready to go. So anyway, and that's probably why the federal government has like, what is it, like a 97% conviction rate? Maybe it's even 98%. It's in the high 90 percentile. So basically anybody they indict, like more than 9 times out of 10, you're going to be found guilty, which is why so many people, they end up taking plea deals with the federal government because usually they're fucked either way. All right, Congressman Brandon Gill replying to Rep. Brandon Gill. Okay, this is a reply from today.yougov.com. What Americans really think about political violence. What do Americans really think about political violence? YouGov. All right, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here so we can read a little. Oh, wow. All right. I guess I'll read it that size. Can I pull back one more? Yeah, that looks good. So editor's note, first of all, this was on September 12th. This article was originally published in The Surveyor, YouGov America's weekly email newsletter. It's been revised for publication here. All right. The shooting death of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk this week has sparked a national debate about political violence, and YouGov has been polling regularly to find out what Americans are thinking. News is still coming in about alleged shooter Tyler Robinson, but here are some of the takeaways from YouGov's polling so far, which, by the way, this is just 2 days after it happened. So just 6% of Americans say political violence is not much of a problem. 5% or not a problem. Wait a minute, hold on. Just 6% of Americans say political violence is not much of a problem. 5% or not a problem. 1%. Okay, whatever. 87% say it is a problem, with a majority, 59% of U.S. adults saying political violence is a very big problem and 28% calling it somewhat of a problem. Not everyone is worried about political violence to the same degree, however. Americans 65 and older are more likely to say political violence is a very big problem than are adults under 30, 69% versus 50%. Okay, so adults under 30 years old, they're saying it's a 50-50 issue. Like half are saying, yeah, it's a problem. The other half are like, yeah, not so much. Sounds like it's divided, split perfectly down party lines. That's what it sounds like to me. Republicans are more likely than Democrats to say political violence is a very big problem, 67% versus 58%. Even among groups where fewer people say political violence is a big problem, though very few people say it's not a problem, those groups just have more people saying it's somewhat of a problem or who aren't sure. You see what I mean? It's like everybody's doing these polls, so you're going to get wildly different answers. I mean, I heard it was like 30% of Democrats said that it's not a problem at all, whereas something like 7% of Republicans who said it wasn't a problem at all. Or it might have even been lower than that, but I don't know. It was something like that. So most Americans say political violence is a very big problem or somewhat of a problem. The red, very big problem. So obviously taking up the majority in all of them. Let's see, Democrats, Independents, Republicans. And then the age groups, 18 to 29, only 50% say it's a very big problem. 30 to 44, 55, it goes up from there. So let's see. But YouGov has asked this question multiple times since 2022 and found some noticeable changes in opinion. For one thing, while Republicans are more likely than Democrats to say political violence is a very big problem in September of 25 in the wake of Kirk's shooting, the reverse has been true when YouGov has asked the question after attacks on Democratic political figures. How concerned Americans are about political violence is related to some degree to whether someone from their side or from the other side is the most recent to be attacked. Democrats and Republicans are more likely to say political violence is a big problem after attacks on a member of their own party. Oh, like the Democrat. So Melissa Hortman, wasn't it? I thought it was a Democrat who attacked Melissa Hortman. Wasn't that some left winger who did that? I don't think it was a right winger, was it? You know, I'm not 100% for sure, and I'm not going to assume, so I'm just going to check that real quick because I'm curious. I heard about it, but I didn't really hear much about it. Let's see. Trying to think. I'm going to try to just keep it simple and see. Vance Boatler, 57, is the suspect in June 14, 2025 targeted shootings of Minnesota lawmakers. He posed as a police officer, fatally shooting former House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband in Brooklyn Park and wounding Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette and Champlin. Their daughter Hope was targeted but unharmed. Boatler, a Trump supporter and anti-abortion activist, fled, ending a massive manhunt after surrendering in woods near his Green Isle home. He faces federal charges of murder, stalking, and firearms offenses, potentially carrying the death penalty and state murder, attempted murder counts. A federal grand jury indicted him on July 15, 2025, and his trial is pending. Holy shit. It didn't give me any... Here, let me try this. This might give... Usually it gives sources for it. I'm just curious to see where the sources came from. It might take like an extra minute, but I mean, I'll take Grok for its word that it says that he's a Trump supporter. I mean, that's what it says. I'm not saying it's the gospel truth, but you know, when it comes to one side or the other, I mean, Grok is usually what I prefer to go to as opposed to Google, because you know, Google doesn't really, like, they cite a few sources, but now see, like, why isn't Grok citing any of these sources? Oh wait, hold on. Is that what this is? Okay, all right, here we go. Search for Melissa Hortman, suspect. Let's see, Senator Dirt. Oh yeah, whatever. Okay, so these are just posts. 10 results. What we know so far. Okay, so PBS, CBS News, WBUR. Show all. Come on, show all of them. You're not gonna let me see all of them? Oh, All right, here we go. Maybe. There, you gotta click on it just right. PBS, CBS News, KETV, justice.gov. Okay, well, I would believe that one. It's a .gov site. Indicted for the murders, shootings, attempted shooting of Hope Hoffman, U.S. Department of Justice. Denver 7, NBC News, AP News, NPR.org. They're all left-leaning. That's the problem with our news atmosphere these days. It's like 95% left-leaning. Probably has for the longest time. All right, let me just... Anything on Trump? Doesn't say anything about Trump. What about conservative? No. All right. I thought he was a left-winger. I thought I read that somewhere. It could have been just some random post on X. So I'm going to say that with a giant grain of salt, especially when Grok said very clearly that he was a Trump supporter. So I'm just, you know, obviously I got to do more reading up on it. But all right. Yeah. So just based on that alone, yeah, there's political violence coming from both sides. So anyway, with that article, also going to link it in the description, today.ugov.com. You want to check out the rest of it. And moving on to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Under President Trump, America is back. Talks with China are respectful and results-driven. The president was ready to let TikTok go dark and make clear that we will never trade away national security. Thanks to his tough negotiating, a framework for a deal is in place and China is coming to the table. Now, the thing about TikTok is that ByteDance, the company that started or at least runs TikTok today, they're working on a TikTok 2.0 right now, and they're ready to release it to America as soon as the original TikTok gets sold off to whoever ends up buying it. Again, so I read. I don't have it right here in front of me ready to show it to you, but that's something that I read, that they're working on something else just in case, you know, because the CCP, that's an awfully massive weapon that they have at their disposal, is the eyeballs of 150 million Americans who get on TikTok at least once a month. And that's not something that I would assume that the CCP is going to give up very easily or very willingly. I mean, it's a hell of a propaganda tool, and they are using it. Oh boy, are they using it. I mean, just look at the state of women versus men today. I mean, and the state of feminism, and I'm sure a lot of the political radicalization is almost certainly coming through TikTok. So, all right, anyway, here, we'll give this a watch.
Under President Trump's leadership, the United States of America is back. If you recall, when Secretary Blinken, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with the Chinese for the first time in Alaska, they were berated and scolded. for about 2 hours and had to sit and take it. The talks with our Chinese counterparts, because of the good relationship between President Trump, Party Chair Xi, are done with great respect and very fulsome. The Chinese came in, as they typically do, with a long list of asks, dating back all the way to President Trump's administration, a lot of grievances with what the Biden administration had done. And I will tell you, what turned the tide was a call that Ambassador
Wait, grievances from the Biden administration? I'd figured the Biden administration would have kissed China's ass all up and down.
And I had with President Trump the night after the first day of negotiations, and President Trump made it clear that he would have been willing to let TikTok go dark, that we were not going to give up national security in favor of the deal. So we were able to reach.
Well, dude, they only shut it down for a weekend. It's right back up. It's been in full swing ever since that weekend that they shut it down, which, by the way, was really entertaining. I mean, look, I have a TikTok account. I've only been on it like literally 3 times ever. I just signed up for it just in case I would have to bring it up, you know, on this show at some point, and I have at least once so far. But it was a lot of fun watching everybody on the left, especially on the left, melting down because TikTok, they woke up and it was dark and people were in like full-on panic.
A series of agreements, mostly for things we will not be doing in the future that have no effect on our national security. And I anticipate we have a framework for a deal, and I anticipate on Friday, when President Trump has a phone call with Party Chair Xi, that the two of them will agree on a final deal.
All right. Well, I mean, I'll believe it when I see it. I know that deal's coming up pretty soon, but like I said, I don't think China's going to let that tool go, not that easily, not at least without having a contingency plan, which I'm sure they're already doing. And I don't know how they're going to be able to get around it. I'm sure they're trying to make sure that the law stays on China's side, international law, with regard to whatever it is that they're working on releasing. And I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see what happens, but it's interesting. But just the fact that they let TikTok stay on, that's a national security issue, in my opinion. It's a massive societal issue. There is a term out there called TikTok brain, and that term exists for a pretty damn good reason, because you can point at a lot of people with goldfish TikTok brain, ADHD and whatnot, or a TikTok-induced ADHD, probably. All right, U.S. Department of Labor. Demand for trade schools is soaring at WTOP. Entering the workforce with specialized training and without student loan debt is becoming an attractive option for many Americans. Many, especially with the so many illegal immigrants returning back to their countries. Last I heard, it was 1.6 million, probably approaching 2 million at this point, who voluntarily left already. And if they were working construction or any kind of blue-collar jobs, I'm sure there were a lot of them. They might not be able to speak any English, but I'm sure they had skills in plumbing or electrical work. And, you know, they're going to have to fill those jobs. So at least that's my assumption. I just figured that.
Demand for trade schools since the pandemic has soared. One research firm is predicting enrollment to grow 6.6% a year for the next 5 years. Brianna Pitts takes us to a technical high school in Massachusetts with a wait list 700 strong.
It's back to school at Worcester Technical. While some students are learning about hospitality at the campus restaurant, juniors like Jaden Geddes are practicing plumbing. Jaden is part of a growing number of young people opting for career in technical high school. The fastest growing trade careers: wind turbine technician, electrician, HVAC
maybe not
tech,
for the long term,
plumbers, and pipe fitters.
They're teaching us real life, real problems.
The
I have a
ability
feeling
to
this is
enter
in a
the
blue state.
workforce with specialized training and without student loan debt is becoming a more practical alternative for many young adults.
100%.
I never really liked school that much, if I'm being honest.
Madison Kilcoyne is in programming and web development, and she knew she needed a balance between an academic setting and shop. As a senior, she knows how to build out a video game, design an app, and code a website, like this one she made for a pool company.
We can help them discover what it is they want to pursue, and so
hopefully they're not wasting money on education that they don't need, or they're pursuing it with an intent.
Principal Drew Weymouth and Director Dr. Patricia Sumala say about 60% of the students here will go on to a 2 or 4 year college. For example, a student in allied health needs a degree to become a nurse, but an auto technician, they can graduate with their ASE certification and enter the workforce immediately at about $30 an hour.
What were you thinking of getting today?
Cosmetology senior Aliana Milton has always loved doing hair and makeup and already has a job lined up after graduation.
I can have a career and I don't have to invest so much money into it because I already started developing it in high school.
And while saving money can be a big benefit for some students, the real value comes from the lessons that last long after graduation.
We know that in order to be successful in any career that you have to be professional. It means you have to bring a strong work ethic, you have to have integrity.
Absolutely.
And we focus on those right from day one.
Skills paying off for students in the working world. Brianna Pitts, CBS News, Worcester, Massachusetts.
All right. And field experience. That's what it's all about. If you have hands-on experience, that's what employers tend to look for. And there's a lot of companies out there, they're being dissuaded from applicants that have a lot of college experience just because of what it typically brings. Usually brings trouble, usually sometimes might bring potential lawsuits and HR complaints all the time. So there's a lot of companies that are opting to hire people without the college educations because a lot of them are indoctrinated and extremely entitled and all that. But definitely building good morals and values is really important. And we saw that after the unfortunate assassination that happened last week with Charlie Kirk, that people who were celebrating are finding themselves getting fired. And it's going to be really hard for some of those people to find another job in the same field because it's going to follow them. It's going to follow them wherever they go. That's why you have to be an ethical person, because it's kind of important in the workplace that you are. Got to be professional. All right, Rep. Rob Menendez. With the Trump administration, you have to ask if they are focused on good policy or settling old scores. The solution to our energy demands should be simple and bipartisan. We need an all-of-the-above strategy, wind and solar included, so we can strengthen our power infrastructure and secure a stronger future for all of us. That's what we will keep fighting for. Yeah, because the $1 trillion that probably more than $1 trillion that they've spent in renewable energy. I mean, he's got a lot of interest groups behind him, probably poking him, telling him, you know, hey, you better get our shit turned back on. You better try to get all this going again. It's unreliable. Wind is unreliable. Wind doesn't blow 24/7. The same with the sun. It doesn't shine 24/7. You're going to have to, the surplus energy that it develops or that it produces during the day has to be backed up on batteries. And batteries are extremely expensive, and they got to be replaced every 10 or 15 years. It's completely impractical. And I mean, they're already beefing up nuclear energy, which is awesome. And they're also producing these small modular nuclear reactors that they are working to factory assemble in the state of Tennessee. Yeah, if you look it up, small modular reactors, and I actually haven't seen a scale as to how large they are, but there's a company in Tennessee. They're aiming in the short term over the next 3 to 5 years to produce between 50 and 100 of them per year. And they ship them. They ship them wherever they go, and it's a small nuclear reactor. And one of those nuclear reactors can produce enough power for thousands of homes per reactor. To me, it sounds completely revolutionary. And actually, while President Trump is in the UK, he's going to be making a deal with regard to these small modular reactors with the UK so they can try to lessen their reliance on nuclear energy from Russia. So I know that's on the president's agenda when he's over there. But yeah, I think this modular nuclear reactor thing it's an absolute game changer, especially if they're building nuclear reactors like assembly line style and they can truck them to locations where they can provide electricity for decades. That's unbelievable, man. That changes everything. You know, fuck wind and solar. I'll take that all day long. So anyway, let's hear what this Democrat has to say.
I'm struggling to see what the play here is, because it almost seems like this administration and what they're doing with offshore wind is retribution for the Obama administration's decision on the Keystone Pipeline.
It's payback.
Would you say that's accurate? This feels like Obama administration made a decision with Keystone Pipeline, so now the Trump administration is going to make a decision with offshore wind, despite the fact that most people here agree that we need an all-of-the-above strategy, including wind and solar?
No, because wind and solar is a lot more expensive than just traditional, whether if it's fossil or if it's nuclear or hydroelectric, it's a lot cheaper. It's between 2 and 3 times more expensive for the average American's electric bill if they're using wind and solar exclusively. Yeah, I've heard that solar, it has a better short-term return on investment, but again, with the battery backup, it's a lot more expensive over the long term because you have to replace them every so often. So it's been impractical the entire time. You know, wind and solar, I've gotten up on that soapbox too much lately. All right, NNSA, Sandia Labs researchers have developed neural network AI algorithms that can simultaneously detect physical problems such as severe weather and cyber attacks within our electrical grids. So yeah, they're using AI. I already read earlier this year that I think it might have been the National Weather Service. They implemented an AI when it comes to spaghetti plotting hurricanes, when they're forming the storm tracks with the cone and everything, and there's the American model, there's the European model, and they started integrating an AI model, and apparently the AI model has been more accurate than the other two, and they've been testing it over the last year, but they just recently came out and said that they developed it over a year ago, and they've been testing it last year to see how accurate it is and if they should implement it into their weather forecasting for hurricanes. And yeah, they are. So yep, AI, it's finding its way into all kinds of stuff. All right, so the electric grid powers everything from traffic lights to pharmacy fridges. And however, it regularly faces threats from severe storms and advanced attackers. Researchers at Sandia National Laboratories have developed brain-inspired AI algorithms that detect physical problems, cyber attacks, and both at the same time within the grid. And this neural network AI can run on inexpensive single-board computers or existing smart grid devices. Quote, as more disturbances occur, whether from extreme weather or from cyber attacks, the most important thing is that operators maintain the function and reliability of the grid, said Shamima Hossein McKenzie, a cybersecurity expert and leader of the project. Our technology will allow the operators to detect any issues faster so they can mitigate them faster with AI. And let's see. So they get into the importance of cyber physical protection, which probably goes without saying because we don't want to be cyber attacked. We don't want to go through brownouts and blackouts and have to deal with that nightmare. But yeah, so they go into developing the neural network and putting the code to the test. Looks like, I don't know if that's the whole thing. I doubt it, but maybe it is. Let's see. Several single board computers with Sandia National Laboratories neural network AI connected into the Public Service Company of New Mexico's test site. The Sandia researchers are testing how well the code can detect cyber attacks and physical issues in the real world. So yeah, they are. The AI algorithms are built into those things. That's pretty wild. So anyway, that'll be linked below if you want to check out that. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm probably going to read the rest of that later on. So anyway, yeah, I'm over an hour and a half. I try to stay like right around an hour and a half. I don't want it to go on too long because, I try to grab at least 3 or 4 clips from each video so I can drop them tomorrow because I know most people don't have enough time to watch an hour and a half. So I try to grab like 3 or 4 of the most important topics that I cover. So I'll be doing that after this. Anyway, DEA HQ. While the work of a DEA forensic chemist is diverse, their devotion to the mission remains constant. Watch the Western Laboratory assist at an illegal drug lab, testify in court, and analyze evidence. So here's a video clip from that, from the DEA.
The DEA's Western Laboratory is located in the San Francisco Bay Area. Join us for a day in the life at the DEA's Western Lab. Starting off the morning, one of our chemists is headed to court to testify to their report from evidence that they analyzed. Meanwhile, at the lab, we have many chemists analyzing drugs like methamphetamine and fentanyl. Analyzing evidence is our primary focus to get information to agents, prosecutors, and the public. After grabbing lunch, some of our chemists got a call to go to a clandestine laboratory, aka an illegal drug lab. Our chemists assist law enforcement by collecting and packaging samples to be sent to the lab. After collection is complete, our chemists head home before returning to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, dude. Like California, man, they got themselves some artistic ass looking donuts, don't they? All right, so they do have a link. If you want to look into this a little bit further, let me see. That's probably the only video clip that they have, I'm assuming. Yeah, so DEA is proud to celebrate National Forensic Science Week. No DEA investigation is complete without the science behind it. Lots and lots of drugs. Especially nowadays, man. I'm sure they are overwhelmed. Like I've said before, I said about a week ago, I could do a completely different show, probably at least a half hour long every single day, only covering the drug busts that I see when I'm scrolling through all of this content to piece together like the top 30 or top 35 different posts that I end up covering in each video. It's on and on, man. Like they're just busts all the time. Like this one, CBP, huge seizure. Along with the help of ICE Gov, CBP officers in Detroit seized 1,047 pounds of cocaine and 937 pounds of meth. The shipments were found within tractor trucks. The Detroit field office has seized more than 4,300 pounds of cocaine and nearly 1,000 pounds of meth during fiscal year 2025 so far. Learn more about CBP's drug interdiction efforts. And we've got a link to that. And that's just in Detroit. They're making busts all over the place, that not even including the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard, they've been ramping up drug busts like crazy on the water. Plus, we've got the military down by Venezuela blowing these drug traffickers right out of the water. I know that's happened twice already. And I covered that yesterday, actually. Wait, where the hell did that article go? I know I clicked on it. Oh, see, they put it over here in the middle for some reason. So, dual drug loads intercepted in Detroit and Port Huron. This is from yesterday. So Detroit, U.S. Customs and Border Protection's Office of Field Operations, along with ICE Homeland Security investigations, intercepted approximately 1,047 pounds, 475 kilograms, and 425 kilograms of meth during outbound enforcement operations near Detroit and Port Huron ports of entry, respectively, on Thursday. So it was last week, actually. In Detroit, a Canada-bound commercial vehicle was selected for examination, and a search of the trailer by CBP officers revealed several bricks of a white powdery substance concealed within multiple boxes and 2 duffel bags. You're welcome, Canada. The illicit cargo was confirmed to be cocaine through subsequent testing. Quote, preventing the scourge of dangerous narcotics from harming our communities is an essential part of our border security mission, and will continue to hold the line against the illicit drug trade, said Port Director Mark Calixte, Port of Detroit. So yeah, so they also seized a truck and a trailer. The driver was a citizen of India, and he faces federal prosecution. So there you have it. And I think I might have one more left, right? Yeah, I think this might be the last one I got from Ted Cruz. They don't kill you because you're a Nazi. They call you a Nazi so they can kill you. Political violence is a left-wing phenomenon. Enough is enough. We need to shut it down.
They've said over and over again for more than a decade, Trump is Hitler, Trump is Hitler. That, you know, I just retweeted a couple of days ago. They don't kill you because you're a Nazi. They call you a Nazi so they can kill you. I have to say I saw polling just recently among people on the left. More than 50% of them believe it is justified to murder Elon Musk, and more than 50% believe it is justified to murder Donald Trump. That is wrong, and I got to say, there's an awful lot of both sidesism. Well, both sides are wrong, the commentators say. If you watch CNN, that's what they say. And I will say that's just not accurate. It is true. Both sides should treat each other with respect. That's right. But this is not a problem that occurs on both sides. 2 assassins tried to murder Donald Trump. It was a left-wing, radical Antifa assassin who was living with a transgender that was transitioning from male to female, who murdered Charlie Kirk. This is a left-wing phenomenon because they have spread poison. And if you tell people over and over again the other side is Hitler, it justifies acts of violence, and we need to say enough is enough, and we need to shut it down.
And they don't have any context behind it. They'll call you a Nazi. Okay, well, why am I a Nazi? Because you're a fascist. Well, what makes me a fascist? You're a Nazi. And it's just like circular bullshit. Like it's just basically just name calling without anything to back it up. I mean, they know what they're doing. They're engaging in not only self-brainwashing, but higher education. They continue the brainwashing. The same with the politicians, the mainstream media, and Hollywood, and all these other mainstream institutions, they just keep feeding it on and on and on. And it's not going to stop until they finally put a stop to it. So hopefully they'll figure something out. RICO charges, they'll make Antifa a terrorist organization. I don't know, but I just hope that they find some way to get all of it under control before we end up in a second civil war, I guess. I mean, that's what people keep throwing around. But anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would mean a lot to me if you do. And I'll drop a new show every evening, Monday through Friday, covering the swamp and everyone living in it. The politicians, the bureaucrats, the agencies, and everything else. And I also post daily episodes on X, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. And thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.